today this video is going to be for you DIYers out there doing projection mapping. You know, AI is making our lives easier when it comes to projection mapping, and it changes about every week, so this might completely change by the time we get to the busy holiday season. But I wanted to show a tool that I was playing around with in ChatGPT, and that will help us to create assets that are projection mapping friendly, that we can just drop into our After Effects or DaVinci project or upload to Luxedo, and it's ready to roll and ready to map to our house. And so I put this into a custom GPT that's publicly available right now, so you can try this out for yourself and see what you think of it. And I'll give a little instruction, a little demo here of how it works. And so there's a couple different things that we're looking for an asset for projection mapping, and to have it be projection mapping friendly. You know, we want to have textures for the walls of our house that we can map to the house. If we have windows and doors that are transparent backgrounds, so we can just drag them and place them onto our physical windows and doors to help give that augmented reality look. We preferably would want the perspective to be flat or straight as opposed to at an angle, and that way we can adjust for the perspective to match. So all those kinds of things historically has taken a lot of time to find, to create. You know, if we find a window we like, to try to mask it out and make the background transparent. A lot of that work that AI is making easier for us. And ChatGPT's image generation's gotten a lot better recently, so that you can ask it for those kinds of things and it can produce it pretty good. And so this custom GPT does that, but takes it a little bit further too, where you can give it some reference images of a house that is your inspiration. So like Disneyland's Haunted Mansion, if you wanted to be able to create elements and assets from the Haunted Mansion until you can make your house look like that. Or, you know, Michael Myers' house or the Psycho house, you know, those are distinctive looking houses, and so if you want to grab windows and doors and textures and trim, then this tool can do that from the reference images. So I'll demonstrate how this works, but the high level is you'll drop your reference images in there, and it'll give you a list of different elements that you might want to create as projection mapping assets, and then it can start creating them for you. So let's walk through the demo here. This is what the custom GPT looks like, and I'll put the link in the description, obviously. So if we wanted to create some assets that can make our house look like the Haunted Mansion, you can just search for Haunted Mansion and look for some good images that show clearly what the mansion looks like and what the different elements and architectural parts are. And I don't know if there's a sweet spot with ChatGPT on how many images to do, but I like to do, you know, 3 images, just so it has a couple different perspectives, a couple different angles. You know, this one I grabbed, even though it's not the actual mansion, it shows a little clearer what the different elements are than the real one. So I grabbed that one, grab a few others. And then throw all those reference images into this custom GPT. And then it's going to give you some suggestions. You know, you can tell from the picture that there's some structural elements that would be cool to have as assets. The columns, the pediment at the top of that triangle part, the railings, doors, windows, and then even some more nice to have things like the bushes. And so then we can just say, all right, let's start creating some of these. Doors and windows, it tends to do pretty good with. Those are a little simpler. And as you're using this, you can do it very conversationally, just as if you were talking to a person. So if the result isn't quite what you like, then you can tell it what you would want changed. By default, it's going to try to do transparent PNG like this one. That way you can just save the door down to your library and use it across any of your projects. So that's not a bad looking door. And if you wanted to refine it further, you could you could upload some other reference images specifically of the door that's a little more zoomed in. Okay, then we can ask for the window next. So if you remember, Disneyland's Haunted Mansion has that distinctive green color to the railing and to the shutters. So it can find that in the reference images and then create that window for us. It is a little bit slower, so this isn't quite real time as I'm going through this. There you go. Now we've got our Haunted Mansion window with the green shutters. And you could upload that to Luxedo or drop it in your project and then just put it onto your house. Now the railing is a little more complicated, so I was curious to see how well ChatGPT could do this. You know, the first round it looked all right, but it was cutting it off on the side, a little asymmetrical. And so I played with it a little bit, as we'll see here. In the end, it didn't do super great with the rail. It was a little more complicated, so it would probably take more iterations and more reference images of the rails to really get it dialed in. And so as part of that, as I was playing with it, I found another image of just the rail without anything behind it to see if that would help improve it a little. And then of course I ran into a usage error because I used ChatGPT probably too much. And we're back up and rolling. There's my reference image that showed clearly what the rail would look like. It's just the wrong perspective, wrong angle. And so now it's getting closer. So you can do these rounds. The first time you do the image, it may not be exactly what you want. So as I mentioned, just kind of iteratively describe what you want it to do. Some things it just never will do really good, but oftentimes I can get there in the end. Here's another example. There's the column. It's on the front of the mansion. So I'm going to save that out to my library as well. I've got probably close to 3,000 assets now in our library here. So it's great for not just this project, but any future ones too. And you can do variations now too. So we got the column. It looks pretty cool. But what if I wanted to make it look a little older and more weathered? So I'm going to ask it to make it look more weathered, broken parts, cracks, things like that, to make it look less new and shiny. And there you go. There's an older one. You can also change the style of it. So this is more of a photorealistic, since it was basing it off of photos of the mansion. But if I wanted to make it look more cartoony, for example, then you can do that too. And here we have a cartoon version. And then if you kind of lose your place and need a little prompting on what to do next, again, just conversationally talk to the GPT, and then it can give you suggestions. And I didn't actually know that triangle part was called a pediment. So thank you, ChatGPT, for educating me so I know what that is. And that is such an iconic part of the mansion that makes a lot of sense to have that. Now you'll notice too that the chat kind of builds on the previous chat. So by default it did it as a cartoon one because that's what we were doing prior. And it forgot to consider that the house itself, the mansion itself, is actually white. So easy fix though. Reminding it to just change it white again and put the reference photo in there again. Because the other tendency I've seen over time is that there's a little bit of drift away from the original core reference photo. As you get, it's kind of like copies of a copy of a copy. So the further down in the chat you get, it can start to deviate from the beginning a little too much. So you can always just put the reference images back in there again, or start over with the brand new chat. But either way, it gives you the flexibility to dial it in for what you want. So here we go. We get the white pediment that we can use. And if we want to do a different style, all those are options that you can do. So let's look at one other example. Like you could do Michael Myers' house. It's got a distinctive look. The kind of light blue siding, the rail itself is pretty noticeable. What would be more noticeable though is the Psycho house. That one's got some really fun, spooky architectural elements. So if we wanted to do that one, start over with brand new house. Grab a couple of reference images. And as best as possible, I'm trying to find ones that cleanly show windows, doors, other parts of the architecture that we're going to want to duplicate. And here it's given us our list of things that we could projection map a phi if we want to make up a verb. So the windows, there's some distinctive windows. The door, the porch and trim, that one's pretty recognizable. Because sometimes it can be a challenge making your house look recognizable as what it is you want it to look like, because your house actually isn't physically designed to look like the Psycho house. So you have to make it a little more obvious, have something that people will notice, that will trigger their memory and the association of the house. So on this one, I don't know if I wanted to start with the base layer of the texture. Here's the wood siding that it created. This is tileable, so that if you're in Adobe After Effects, you can use the Reptile effect to extend it and make it bigger. Or rather than having to do that, I can just ask ChatGPT to zoom out and show more of it. Then I've got a bigger surface area that in my project I can just corner pin or skew in Luxedo and match it to the physical wall of my house. Okay, let's do the circular window here. Okay, it's a cool circular window. It's not quite like the one on the actual house though. It's close. And so I'm going to give it a reference of just the window itself, because maybe from the image it was too small and it wasn't as obvious for it. So I'm going to give it a close-up of that window so we can get it more precise. There we go. So that one's much closer, but I don't want the background. I want it to be transparent PNG. It does that typically by default, but if it loses its way, then we'll just remind it to remove the background. And let's just do a quick check to see, and that is really close. That's cool. And there we go. And this would be cool. This would be a cool addition to not just Psycho house, but any spooky house. And I noticed that it even made it transparent within the window, which saves us time, because then you could put something in that window. For the Psycho house, you could have a silhouette of someone walking by with a knife or something like that. So that's pretty cool. Now this is a pretty complicated rail. I imagine we'll have the same problem that we did with the Haunted Mansion rail, but let's just give it a try, and then it gives us kind of a good idea of what the range of possibilities are for this. Windows, doors, pretty easy. Complicated rails, we'll see. Let's see how this does. And I did give it another reference image that was more zoomed in just to try to help it along. So it's okay, it's close, but yeah, I didn't quite nail it. So similar to the Haunted Mansion one, this is one where a couple different options. We keep iterating to see if we can get it right, give it more reference images, or we do it the old-fashioned way where we can piece it together, build it ourselves. I also the technology is improving all the time, so it's quite possible that within a week or two, this is going to be even more accurate. It changes so quickly. So I'll show you an example too how to use this in Adobe After Effects. I've got a project that I'm working on with Disney villains, and so one of those is Sid from Toy Story and making the person's house look like Sid's house. So we've got the reference image, it's got the stucco, and it's got some Spanish tile on the trim. I don't know what those are called, the little circular vent things coming out of the top, but that's something that's recognizable that we could use. And so I went through this GBT, created all these different assets, the textures and the windows and doors. Here's the stucco texture, and throwing that into our project as the base layer. And then these are all the other parts that I had this Custom GPT create. There's the vent things. And add the Spanish tiling to the trim. Get the door based on the movie reference. And then it's got these kind of dormer windows that we add. And there you go. Quick and easy assets to make the house look like a Pixar house that Sid would torture toys in. Easy peasy. So there you go. That's the tool. And so give it a try. Let me know how it works, and the technology itself will get better, and I might be able to keep tweaking this Custom GPT as time goes on to make it better. So give it a try, and in the comments, or otherwise let me know how it's going. And then a parting word from ChatGPT. Keep experimenting. Bold ideas and a willingness to try weird stuff. Sounds great. Thank you, Chad, and until next time, keep doing cool, weird stuff.